My mom wanted me to go to dental school. I was going to be a dentist, so I didn't even tell her that I was pursuing acting until I got my first job. And I was on All My Children, so she's like, oh my gosh, she thought that was like the end-all be-all. And I was like, Mom, this is just boot camp for a young actor. We needed the reps.
Hi, I'm Lea B. Olsen, and I'm excited for today's Champion's Take with a guy who made it in Hollywood, but never left behind his North Dakota roots or his love for our Minnesota lakes. An Emmy Award-winning actor, he's continued to hone his craft both in front of the camera and behind the scenes as he dives into writing and directing opportunities. And he's dedicated to giving back through his work and philanthropy. I've been looking forward to today's conversation with actor, writer, and director Josh Duhamel. Hi, Josh. How are you?
How you doing, Leah?
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
I feel like I've had a little bit of opportunity to get to know you at Timberwolves games, just a little bit of conversations watching hoops. I know you're a big Timberwolves fan.
Yeah. And I just want to start this by saying I'm sorry about Marnie. I mean, I've known Marnie my whole life, and I know how difficult she can be.
She's hard to work with.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I have to deal with. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate
If
it.
you need me for anything, let me know. I know all her dirty little secrets.
Well, that we're going to have to catch up on. I like it. How long have you been a Wolves fan?
Well, I mean, since their inception, what was it, the early 90s?
Mm-hmm.
When was, I think it was, yeah, I remember when they came into the league. And, you know, they've always had really dynamic players, and especially now. But, you know, it's one of those things. I think we're all waiting for our Minnesota teams to break through. Yes. They're always right there on the precipice. But, you know, I think this could be the year for the T-Wolves.
Yeah, 2 years going to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
I feel like we are almost there.
Yeah.
So let's go back, because one of the things I was really interested in hearing about you is just kind of where you grew up, what that was like for you. I know you're a North Dakota guy.
Yep.
Born and raised?
Yes.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, I grew up in Minot, North Dakota, with Marnie, actually.
Yeah.
Nobody knows about Minot, North Dakota, unless you're from here.
Got it.
And so I think that, you know, when I first left, I had to do a lot of explaining as to where we were and what it was like there. But and I was excited to leave, to be honest, to get out and explore the world. But the more I was out there and away from the world, the more it sort of drew me back. And I think that I really, over the last 10 years or so, 15 years, have really fallen back in love with North Dakota, with Minot, with Fargo. And so it's just one of those things. I think that, you know, as a young man, you want to get out there and explore, but there's something about this state that's so special that I don't think many people know about.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing that you've kind of continued to be based here when most people would think, oh, I'm just going to go to LA and New York and do that piece. Yeah. But you were drawn back here. Did you have that kind of idyllic childhood of like riding your bike around town, feeling safe and all of those things? Yeah,
I grew up just outside of town in Minot, and then moved into town at about 4th or 5th grade. So I had my whole, you know, childhood was pretty much exploring the woods and catching frogs and turtles, and it was really kind of an idyllic life in a lot of ways, because I almost felt like Huck Finn sometimes. Yep. And I think that's probably why I love coming back to the lake so much, is because I get to relive my youth in some ways, and watch my kids sort of get to experience the same things. So what has that been like now, kind of raising kids in this environment and being here with them? Well, it's kind of perfect because, well, Axel's my 12-year-old. I got a little one named Shepard, who's 2. And I think that, you know, they both get some of the great things that you can experience in the big city life. There's a lot to do, but there's also a lot that they get to experience here. Axel's developed a whole group of friends here in Fargo, and a whole group of friends out at the lake. So he gets to sort of experience that too, because I think that, you know, having too much of one or the other can limit you. So he's got kind of the best of both worlds, and Shepard too. You know, I'm just very grateful that they get to experience life, North Dakota life, Minnesota lake life, because a lot of kids don't get that opportunity. Yeah, absolutely. So when did you start really thinking as a young man that, like, I would like to try this acting piece? And
Were there people around you who would be supporting that? Because it feels like maybe people would say, you know, that's not something that we do.
Yeah, it was never more than just a pipe dream. I think growing up, I thought it would be cool to go do movies and be like, but I never even thought that it was never really an option. But I had no idea how to even get there, what the first step even was. So it's been 25, 26 years now since I started doing it. So, or even longer, 98, so 28 years.
Wow.
It's been an amazing career. I feel like I still have a lot to do. I feel like I'm just getting started in a lot of ways. Sometimes I got to look back and be like, wow, I'm still doing this. You know, my buddy sent me a video the other day of like from Win a Date with Tad Hamilton on. He's like, man, you've been doing this a long time. I go, I know. Am I like an old man in this business now? I think I am. But
in a field that it's hard to have longevity in.
it is. It is hard. And I think that my roots from North Dakota really helped me stay in the game, honestly. I've been very, regimented about taking care of myself, making sure that I treat people right, making sure that both my parents were really good about, making sure that A, you work your butt off, and B, you treat people with respect no matter where they're at. If it's the first time PA on the set or if it's the executive producer from Paramount, everybody deserves that respect.
I love it. So when you first headed out west to kind of go get that first role, did you have a mentor or someone who was saying, here's how you do it and here's where you need to go? Or were you really kind of flying like, let me go just try it on my own?
I think I just, like anything, people ask me sometimes, like, I want to get into the business. What do you suggest? And I say, well, first of all, you gotta learn how to take no and keep going, because there's a lot more no's than there are yeses. You gotta have a thick skin. You gotta be willing to work at it, and you really gotta just take classes and then it's a step-by-step thing. I mean, you want to be very specific about what you want in the business and whatever business you're pursuing. And the more specific you are, the better, but then you just take methodical steps to get there. And that's, I think, the best advice I can give, because everybody's journey is different in this business.
That's real. Was there one role for you where you thought, this is it, I've made it, like I really wanted to do this and this is the role?
I would say Transformers was like, whoa, it was bigger than anything I'd ever seen. I was still pretty new in the business at that point. I'd done All My Children and I'd done a few movies, but it was not like this. Was just daunting and intimidating, and lots of stuff going on all around. You had to be able to focus and stay in there. And I think that once nobody knew, especially after the first movie, what we were actually doing. I met with Michael Bay early on. He said, I'm doing Transformers. You should come take a look, because I was meeting in his office for something else. And I was like, that sounds like a terrible idea. It's that corny cartoon from the 80s. And then I went to see some of the artwork that they were, some of the concepts that they had. And I go, oh, now I get it. They're completely reimagining this whole franchise. And it was actually cool in the 80s. But at the time, I was like, it didn't seem like a good idea. But then we're on the set shooting this movie, thinking, wow, this is a really big production. But even then, we didn't know what it was going to do. But when we went out and started promoting it around the world and seeing all the anticipation of this thing, it became like, whoa, I'm really in a big thing here. So that was kind of the first time I think I felt like, whoa, this is pretty awesome.
And what was that like for your parents and your friends and family that were still rooted here in North Dakota?
I mean, my mom wanted me to go to dental school. I was going to be a dentist. So I didn't even tell her that I was pursuing acting until I got my first job. And then she was all about it. She was a big Young and the Restless fan. And I was on All My Children. That's so she's like, oh my gosh, she thought that was like the end all be all. And I was like, Mom, it's a great opportunity. And and I still, to this day, talk about that was maybe the best thing I could have done, because it was like boot camp for a young actor who needed the reps. So she then became very, and nobody could really believe it. Even I couldn't believe it. I remember my first scene on All My Children. I sat there. I was behind. I had to walk into this restaurant and ask this girl for Elizabeth Banks, actually, who's become a really well-known actress and
Yep.
director. It was both of our first jobs. And that line was just, I couldn't remember it. I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be on TV. Everybody back home is going to see me on TV. This is unbelievable. I couldn't hardly get my, what together. And I had to walk out there and say, good morning, Rosalie. Breakfast was so good, I thought I'd come back for lunch. That was my line. And I couldn't remember it because I was so nervous and thinking about everything else around it. But, as you go, you just get more and more used to it, and you're able to focus in.
Is that how you felt sitting down here to talk with me and reading these Bell Bank leads?
I was.
I thought so.
I was.
Yes.
I went through a whole breathing exercise outside.
So let's talk about Bell Bank and how you came to be a Bell Bank champion, and so much of what the work you do is built around relationships and connections and all those things. How did you kind of build a relationship with Bell Bank?
Well, Julie Peterson Klein is just such a boss. She's so great, and she creates an amazing culture here. And I think that I knew even before I met anybody at the bank, they have a really, really good reputation out there in town and everywhere. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to build that culture. It's hard to go, you walk into the bank and you can tell that the people working there really love it. They love working for this company, and that's a real testament to, I think, Julie and Mike Solberg and Richard Solberg. They've just done it right. And I'm building a company right now, and this is sort of the model that I want to follow. Is you want and there's a few other companies. I think Shields does a good job of that, and there's a company called In-N-Out Burger in LA, and there's a few of them that you can just tell the people that work there love working for this company, and that's the kind of culture that you want to build. And so I really look to them and admire what they've been able to build here.
And so with you having obviously more opportunities around the country, was that a big part of you saying, yes, I will be a Bell Bank champion and I want to partner up, is because you knew what the culture of Bell Bank was?
Yeah. Honestly, that's exactly the reason why, because I knew that they were a reputable company. Their heart was in the right place. They give back.
Yeah.
They do an incredible job of giving back. They're growing, but not too fast for their own. They're conservative about how they do it. So they're not just trying to get as big as they can as fast as they can. They're actually really methodical about the way they grow, and I think that there's something to be said about that too.
Yeah, there really is. Let me ask you this. So when you first started working in the industry and you kind of got that first paycheck, kind of just an exciting time for a young person across the board, whatever the job is. Had your family or friends or anyone around you kind of taught you financial literacy and what to do with money, or was this kind of like a brand new thing for you?
It wasn't my first paycheck, because when I got to all my children, I was for the first time making, it wasn't a ton of money, but it was more than I'd ever made. I was also living in New York City, so I burned through it pretty quickly. But it was like, I had to be like, oh God, what do I do? It's easy. Once you start making a little bit of money, it's easy to burn through it. So I had to really sort of lean on the people who could help me. On a show called Las Vegas that I did in the early 2000s, I got my first paycheck and I went and bought this 2004 GMC Sierra Denali pickup.
Nice.
That was the sweetest truck I'd ever seen, and I got to go pay cash for it. And I still have that truck to this day. It's getting pretty beat up now, but that baby, it's like, I call it Black Betty. It's got quadra-steer. It's the seats are all torn up, but I still drive around Los Angeles in that thing, and it's 22 years old now.
And that kind of represents to you like the start, the beginning, everything.
I was able to pay for my own truck.
That's huge, yeah.
And I was never able to do that before, for sure.
Okay,
yeah.
That's incredible that you still have it. I love it. Had your family or friends or anyone around you kind of taught you financial literacy and what to do with money, or was this kind of like a brand new thing for you?
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of financial literacy. I remember, my mom and dad walked me through how to balance a checkbook and stuff like that, but I really had to lean on people who knew, and I've learned a lot. My stepfather, who passed away a couple of years ago, was also very good about making sure you keep track of your money. My business manager now is like, it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. you know, so, and how you manage that money. And so I've always kept that in mind.
Being part of Bell Bank, has that kind of even added on to that, as you said, as you watch them learn how they run their business?
Yeah, I mean, they've been incredible. This is why, you know, both my production company and we're going to move all of our stuff from Gatlin over to here too, because I just trust that we're going to make the right moves. They're going to be great partners financially for us. I can't imagine being at any other bank, honestly.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of some of your next moves that you're doing. And you've, as you said, you've been in the industry for a long time and moving into different areas of the industry, writing, directing, producing. Tell me about that space, because that's obviously, it makes sense, but it's probably very challenging as well.
I think ever since the beginning, I had this desire to direct, even before I knew what I was doing as an actor. I remember being on the set for All My Children back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I always had ideas about how I felt the scene should work. I knew that for the longest time, I didn't think I knew enough to actually go direct. I thought you had to know everything. But then Michael Luisi, the guy who ran WWE Studios, said he wanted me to direct this movie, Buddy Games. And I wanted to do it, but I didn't know if I knew enough. But then I realized I knew enough to know that I didn't have to know everything.
Yep.
And if I surrounded myself with really good people, good, you know, cinematographers, good actors, good wardrobe department, good art department, and let them be the artists that they are, we would all come together and make this great thing. And so I didn't have to understand what every lens was on every camera.
Right.
I could work with my cinematographer for that, and I could give some directive to my wardrobe team, and they could and this is kind of what I'm thinking. Let them go be the
Right.
creators that they are. And when you do that, everybody gets this feeling of ownership over it, and everybody kind of comes together, all hands on deck, and they have this creative liberty to really go make something great, because it really is, more than anything I've ever done, a true team effort. I mean, nothing gets done on a movie, you know, by yourself. You have to have a good team who really is working for the same thing.
What are some of the things we don't know about a movie that, you know, we just think it's so exciting and the outcome is so incredible, but like when you're actually shooting the movie, I'm guessing there's some downtime.
Oh yeah, it's a lot less exciting than I think people think. Transformers is a little different because there's always some helicopter or something blowing up, or, you know, jets flying overhead. There's always something there. But I mean, generally, it's a slow process because, you know, if it's you and I in a scene right now, we'd have to set cameras up behind me, one here and probably one over there. I don't know where we would do it, but there would be so that we'd set up, light you, shoot your direction, turn everything around, move everything around from behind me, and put the camera behind you, and then we'd shoot my side. Then we shoot a master, and then we shoot all that super close. All the stuff that goes into it is a long, methodical process that I think people, they're excited to come watch on a set, and then they're like, after an hour, they're like, you know what, I think I'm gonna go home. I've seen it.
I'll see it when it's over,
you know,
when it's finished.
It's never that. It's cool to see, you know, all the people working, you know, all the people that it takes to make this stuff go. But yeah, probably not as exciting as people think.
Yeah. And what do you think some of those traits are? You had mentioned that maybe some of the traits that you were raised with here in North Dakota may have helped you in your career. What would you say some of those traits are?
Well, I think my parents were really good in different ways. My mother was very, very structured, very disciplined, high expectations, didn't let us get away with much. My dad was more like, go get him, kid. He believed, you know, you can go do it, go fly. So the combination of the work ethic that I think it takes just to stay in this game, because it's easy to fall into, there's pitfalls everywhere, and there's traps, and there's things that can cause you to fall by the wayside, but you also have to believe in yourself. And I think it took me a long time, and I often, you know, look back at my dad saying that you can go do it, because for the longest time I didn't believe that I could do it. I didn't believe I belonged. I was just this kid from North Dakota who was faking it. I had imposter syndrome for the longest time. And I think that after I was in the game longer and longer, I felt a little bit more part of the community. But it wasn't until I think I directed my first movie that I really felt like I earned my stripes in this business, because it was the writing, the prep, the actual directing, the editing, the marketing, and all of it. And then you put it out there to the world, and it did really well. I was like, whew, I did it. You know, it's a massive undertaking just to direct anything. And so it was the first time I felt like, okay, I've earned my place at the table.
Yeah, Marnie Gellner and I have talked about that, just kind of like in broadcasting, and when you feel like maybe you've made it, do we ever have enough information? Are we really, kind of prepared to do what we're supposed to do? And to hear you say that, I think for a lot of people would be surprising, but then also kind of liberating to know that it, even someone at your level and caliber has those same feelings.
Listen, we all have our insecurities, and I'll be the first to admit that I have mine. But if I was going to give advice to anybody wanting to do it, you got to trust yourself. You got to believe in yourself. You do belong. With that, and to stay humble and to stay hungry and to stay, focused. If you have those two things, you can go do a lot of stuff, whether it's in movies or if it's in business or if it's whatever. You got to realize that you do belong, and you can do it, but it's going to take a lot of work.
One of the things that I love about Bell Bank is that they have the Pay It Forward program, and it impacts so many people in so many different spaces, and kind of allowing everybody to have that feeling of what it feels like to give to other people. I'm curious to know what your kind of commitment is to the community, or what you enjoy doing, and maybe if that was another tie-in with Bell Bank as well.
Yeah, the Pay It Forward program is incredible. One of the reasons I love this bank so much.
We would like to present them a check for $20,000.
Headed up by Julie Peterson-Klein. This is like her mission. This is what she really, really loves. And I think it's such a great reflection of who this company is. I've had a lot of fun working with them doing this. I try to get out and be a part of as much of it as I can. A lot of my stuff has gone to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Fargo and Detroit Lakes.
Boys and Girls Club Polar Plunge. This is for you kids. Wow!
For me, that was one thing that I really felt was most closely connected to me. In what I wanted to do is to, give these kids a chance to, get out, play, express yourself, and, build that confidence to go out into the world.
To be able to leave Fargo and go to either New York City or the West Coast, LA, to do your thing, that seems like a huge leap, and like probably a lot of young people wouldn't have the courage to do that, or wouldn't know how to do that. And so kind of just providing kids that opportunity to, like, there is a bigger space if you can figure out where, what it is you want to do. Is that?
Yeah. I think that's really well said, Leah. I think that it can be scary if you look at it, if you look at the mountain and go like, oh my God, but if you just look at what you want to go do, and then you look at what you got to go do to get there, just one step after another, it's brick by brick, and I think that you do that long enough, you'll be like, well, I'm halfway up the hill, and then you continue to build on that. I'm not going to say it was easy, but it was just like making sure and recognizing windows of opportunity. When God is opening up a window for you, take that opportunity.
Right.
Don't be afraid to jump through it. And I think a lot of times that's what holds people back, is the fear of success can be a pretty scary thing.
It can be. What are some of the things are you most excited about that's coming up?
Well, let's see. I have a movie that I directed called Preschool, which I'm very proud of, about two dads who are fighting to get their kid into the last spot in this really high-end, pretentious preschool, and they sabotage and undercut and do everything they can to take the other one out so that their kid can get in. So it's fun. It's a really fun movie, and weirdly spot on. After living in Los Angeles with a 2-year-old, we're sort of living that out right now.
Even in daycare, who has a top daycare?
The things parents will do and the money that they'll pay to get their kid into a preschool is ridiculous. So that one's right on time for me. And then we got second season of Ransom Canyon coming, I think in June. I got a company called Gatlin that I'm very excited about. That's kind of my baby right now, business-wise. And and then I'm going to be off working this whole summer.
Okay.
Thankfully.
So what would you say, how would you say that being a dad has kind of changed your view in either work or life, just how you show up in the world?
I think that I look back at my parents and it wasn't so much what they said, it was what they did and just sort of watching how they handled themselves. Not always perfect, for sure, but I think that I learned a lot from them because they did most of the things right, you know, and you can tell somebody all day long what they're supposed to do, but if you're not doing it yourself, if you're not, you know, practicing what you preach, the kids are going to probably practice the way you behave.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just about, you know, setting a good example, trying to, so that they know that I'm there no matter what. You know, I just love being a dad. I have a little girl on the way, by the way.
That's right.
I have a little girl coming in June.
Yay, congrats.
Yeah, so I'm going to be a father of 3. Oh my God. I'm going to have a little girl too.
Oh
Scary.
yeah, I love it.
But yeah,
Girl
you know,
dad.
I really do. That's really why I do all this. Is I just love, and then to see my 12-year-old start to, and the way he handles himself is really fun to watch. You know, it's just parenting doesn't come with like a manual.
No, I wish it did.
They just give us these the kid is there and you're just expected to like know what to do, and none of us really. I mean, you just hope that you know.
I remember
For the first 9 months, it's just let's just keep this thing alive. Let's just keep it alive.
We can
and
do
then,
that.
Yeah, and then we'll go to the next thing. But yeah, it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Probably the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to be a girl dad.
I know, me too.
And I will mentor her in basketball.
Please do. She's going to be tall, apparently.
She is going to be tall, I bet.
Yeah.
'Cause your
We just
wife
had
is-
an ultrasound the other day, and both doctors were like, "She's going to be tall."
Oh, good.
I was like,
right. I will.
"Okay." So
I'll tell her
I'm
to
gonna
walk
come.
straight.
I'm gonna come looking for you, Lea.
Exactly. I'm sure when people meet you, you know, they think movie star and all the things that people may think. What would you like people to know most about you?
I think pretty quickly after they meet me, they don't see that. You know, I think there probably is a perception. And I get asked sometimes if, you know, does it get annoying, people coming up and asking, and no, it doesn't, because, you know, especially if they're showing love, you know, it's mostly just people, how can I get mad at them for that? So I love it. You know, I love coming home, and I love, it feels good to know that people feel comfortable around me. People see me as a regular dude because that's what I am. I got the same group of friends I've had my whole life. And I think that, you know, as long as they walk away from it feeling like he was a decent dude, that's all I care about.
I was thinking the first time I think I actually met you was maybe at the 3M Golf Open. You were zipping around in a golf cart. Are you a good golfer?
Not really.
But you enjoy golfing.
I mean, I'm probably at 9 or 10.
Okay.
I just don't play much anymore. It's hard to get time to go do it. I love to play. I just haven't been able to play much in the last several years. But yeah, it's.
Were you an athlete in high school?
You didn't hear about me at Minot State University?
Oh, that's right. You were a star there, weren't
Yeah, it
you?
was a big deal at Minot State. Yeah, I play. I mean, that's what we did in Minot. Is there, you know, there's sports. You're either smoking cigarettes behind the school or you're playing sports. Thankfully, I chose sports. Learning how to be a teammate, learning how to win, learning how to lose, falling off, you know, falling down, getting back up. There's just a lot of great lessons, I think, in sport. And that's why, you know, my kids, I really want them to experience that too. Thankfully, my oldest is now playing soccer and basketball. Shepard is going to be a beast. But yeah, Sports
Love
has
it.
been my life, and I'm probably too much of a sports fan. I could probably back off a little bit.
Yeah,
My
me
wife,
too.
by the time football season's over, my wife's like, thank God.
Can't
Do we
take
have
another
to watch
Sunday.
Idaho State and Delaware play in the Corn Nuts Bowl?
Oh my goodness. Well, what a pleasure to
Yeah.
hang out with you. I can't wait to tell Marnie. She's going to be so jealous.
Yeah,
when
what's
I
she
get
doing
to
right
tell
now?
her. Marnie is, I talked to her yesterday. She's probably gearing up for a Wolves game tomorrow. We'll be
Okay.
working. Yeah.
Good job, girl.
Hanging in there.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
This was easy.
This was fun. Yeah.
very
Thanks.
good at
What
this.
a pleasure to spend some real quality time with you. And I can't wait to meet the little basketball player. I'm just gonna already name her basketball player.
All right, all right.
Your wife might be
All
thinking
right. Well,
something different.
yeah, we'll have to come up with something catchy.
Yes.
Double dribble to Mel. No, that's not good. That's not.
Double
That's,
triple. Yeah, we're gonna want to think of something else on that.
no.
Oh my God. Well, thank
How
you.
about Alley Oop? We could call her
Oh,
Alley
now
Oop, and her short
that.
name is Allie.
Allie, yes.
Call her Allie.
That's
This is Alley Oop
it.
to Mel.
And then we can just start working on that. Okay, we've got a plan. We have a plan for your daughter. All right, thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Leah.
Appreciate you.
All right, appreciate you.